All right, we've got a great episode coming up for you. I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you. This was with the head of product for Otter.ai, which is an app that I use a lot. It's not just an app. You can obviously get to it through the website Otter.ai. But this was a really great interview with Simon Lau, like I said, the product manager. And I want to be honest up front, this was pretty funny. We got to the end of it. I had a great interview, really had a good time with Simon, and looked down, and the device I was using to record was not on. So I still don't know. I'm going to assume that was, of course, user malfunction. But luckily, Simon had his phone out, and Otter.ai got the whole thing. So we got the transcription, we got the audio from that, so that really saved the day, and I thought this was a perfect end to the interview that, the very app we were talking about was the one that really came through. So if you're interested in finding out about the kind of the workflows of how this can be used, if you're not familiar with it, or if you are and you're looking for some more ideas, as well as some insights into a little bit of a tech startup, then I think this is going to be a really interesting episode for you. So check it out. It's about 20-30 minutes long. Got some great stuff in there. And if you stay to the end, got a little bit of a surprise at the end. I'm Adam Moody, and today I'm talking with Simon Lau about his background, Otter.ai, the use of technology to increase productivity, organization, and more. And we are going to be covering, of course, some areas that can help you out in your business and life, so stay tuned. With that, let's get going. Welcome, Simon.
Hi, Adam. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Yeah, we just sat down, actually, and we're at their office space, and this is interesting. This is actually only my second in-person interview, so it's a little weird to do the intro and say hello, but it's nice. I like this.
I like that, too.
Well, let's just jump right into it. So my first set of questions is mostly about your background and a little bit of experience and kind of in the frame of productivity so that people can get a little bit of idea of where you're coming from. So if you can share as little or as much about yourself in terms of your background, your education, and I guess kind of your experience leading up to now.
So growing up in Hong Kong, where I was born, I've always been sort of like a very studious student, always, get straight A's and be perfectly organized. So organization and productivity is sort of in me since childhood. And then as I moved to the United States, I realized, wow, there's a lot of things that can be a little bit more efficient, a little bit more productive. And I sort of feel that conviction that, okay, I want to get to know how I can do things more efficiently, make myself more productive, whether it's as a student or eventually as I joined the workforce. I want to always enrich myself with the best tools out there. With the advent of mobile apps at the time, and that was great. And that's when people get to try to download a whole bunch of apps and give it a try, whether it is a smart calendar that can do more than just manually programming things or whatnot. So at one point in my career, I started off my career being a software developer, working with enterprise software, but at one point in my career I worked at a company that works on a smart assistant.
Okay.
It's called Easily Do at the time.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with that.
You are?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, fantastic.
Yeah, this is great.
So this was like before there was Google Now, where it's automatically connected to your calendar and connect to your contacts and connect to Facebook. So that's when I got really super excited about productivity. So I had fun at Easily Do. It was before there were other type of smart assistants, before there was Google Home, before there was Hey Alexa. It was a mobile app that can connect to all the different things and take care of all the pesky tasks in your life so that you don't have to worry about it. You can remember to send happy birthday greetings and program it into the app. So that was a lot of fun. And then throughout the rest of my career leading up to AI Sense, I've constantly been working on in the space of contact center, customer service, and obviously productivity or optimization, driving the right type of human-to-human interaction and engagement is very important. So it sort of come full circle when I joined AI Sense. I'm back to a startup environment where we can think about how to innovate. And also I had 20-plus year experience in the speech recognition space. So in that sense, from a technology standpoint, it also come full circle where I used to work on an older generation of speech technology, And now fast forward to 2017 when AI is becoming hot again. Why? Because now we have the computation power and the ability to really democratize the building application with artificial intelligence. So that resurgence of artificial intelligence in the context of speech recognition and in the context of productivity, that combination of those three things really drew me to why I joined AI Sensed in building the app as it is today called Otter Voice Notes or Otter.ai.
That's interesting because I was thinking, I can't remember if I was on the way over here or somewhere earlier, but I've been thinking about this and how visual recognition has been such a big thing for such a long time. I mean, it's obviously still be working on. You've got like autonomous cars being worked on, and a lot of that is visual. But it seems to me like there wasn't a big leap in voice technology. Like you've had, Dragon was like a Dragon naturally speaking, I think. And I remember using that years ago, and I was like, well, it's producing something, and somebody could use it, but I never ended up using it because it just wasn't good enough. And I've tried so many products, and I've used transcription services where you have a human being listening to it. And then once I came across Otter, that was like, wait a second, this is actually that like quantum leap of like, it's usable, and it's more than usable, it's good.
Yeah, and I like that you said quantum leap. I think it's quantum leap not only in the sense of the technology that powers it, but also in terms of a leap in the utility, the number of the broad range of use cases. When you mention Dragon naturally speaking, what is the typical use case? It's just voice typing. So rather than typing, you speak it, right? So how interesting is that? Well, maybe it's interesting for people with carpal tunnel or people with that need, being able to voice type. That's great, but it's perceived to be a very limited set of use cases. But now with Otter, with the ability to transcribe any sort of conversations, voice conversation, and be able to take notes for you, and be able to summarize, and be able to enrich the conversation that you've had, so that it's no longer forgotten. It's more than just a recording. It's more than just a transcript. It's a whole lot more, and we're just getting started. So that's what really excites me. That once we launch the application and start to get a lot of feedback from the users in terms of how they're using it and how it benefits their lives, it's very heartwarming, and it also inspired a ton more ideas.
I was about to say, I'm kind of curious. I've never had anything to do, this may be overly broad, but like I've never done anything SaaS related or like software. That's not what I've done. But I would imagine too, you reach that point where you start getting enough feedback or users that it kind of accelerates itself, right? Is that
absolutely?
Okay.
I think, and that's a key thing about consumer application. At the beginning, we were before we launched Otter, we were thinking, do we go the consumer route or the enterprise route? We decided to launch as a consumer app because we wanted to get a ton of feedback, qualitative feedback. Well, both quantitative and qualitative. But the qualitative part is very, very interesting because once we've launched it with some initial concept of how it might be used, yes, it did confirm some of those our initial guesses, but we've learned so much more. There are so many other use cases that we hadn't even thought of. So it really accelerated the learning process.
Gotcha. So I've used it myself. So the big ones for me are literal transcription. So I've used it for taking videos and stuff I want to either summarize or get something out of and not spend the time or honestly spend a lot of money getting for really long videos. It saves me both. Or I can hand it off to an assistant and say, hey, please, we've got meeting notes, go summarize this or type or, take what is available through Otter and, straighten it up or put it together as an actual product sometimes. And then as well for like live meeting notes, kind of like what we're doing now. And no one can see this, but Simon's using his phone right now and using Otter and it's kind of cool watching it. So anyway.
It's a little bit mesmerizing too.
It is. I've done it before and then I realized I just like space out. So I'm just curious too, what are some other use cases that you guys have seen or heard back from?
Yeah, so one interesting one, and it's a heartwarming one, is someone who is hard of hearing he has forgotten to bring his hearing aid to church or to a Bible study. So rather than driving all the way back to get it, he decided that why don't I just go to the App Store or Google Play and see if there's an app that can help me, right? And somehow he stumbled on Otter. And within 5 minutes, he was able to get sign up for an account and be able to get it to work, tap the record button, and be able to see the Bible study or the sermon that's going on and be able to instantly comprehend
and be pulled back in, kind of be part of it.
And be part of that conversation. And he left a very, very heartwarming review on the App Store and basically just encouraging us, think about our community. Think about the deaf and hard of hearing community. Even though maybe you guys are not did not initially set out to build the application for that community, but think about it, right? Accessibility is a very important thing, whether it is universities who want to provide accessible classrooms, or podcasters who want to provide transcripts to, or video vloggers, any type of broadcasting, live events, live broadcasting on social media, or Facebook Live, or whatever format. You've got to include the broader community.
Yeah.
So we start to see a lot of that, and especially recently, a few months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, when we first launched the real-time transcription feature. We've been looking for what is the killer app for that. So we quickly realized that having Otter to live transcribe public events such as tech conferences or just any sort of conferences, provided.
Which I think I was bugging you. I sent you an email. I forget, honestly. I'm sorry. Where were you guys at? Was it
we were at TechCrunch.
TechCrunch.
TechCrunch Disrupt. Actually, we did 3 events for them. TechCrunch Disrupt San Francisco. There's an AR VR event down in LA for TechCrunch. It's a smaller scale event, and then last week it was TechCrunch Disrupt Berlin.
Cool.
So I flew there and did that. We did about like a handful of many other ones as well, including a portion of Web Summit in Lisbon.
Okay.
A whole bunch of events, and that was a good marketing activity as well, because there's a lot of technology lovers, people who are into AI, people who are into productivity. They come to the show, whether they have accessibility needs or not. They basically just saw the TV screen and was mesmerized. Another surprising finding was also for people who are ESL people, right? English as a second language. So for international events, when they come to these conferences, they're like, without Otter, I would not have been able to understand what the speakers are talking about. So they find themselves glued to the TV screen watching Otter live transcription, and really be able to comprehend the conversation and what's going on stage. So that's fascinating.
It is, and it brings up a question too for me. So I can speak a few words in a few other languages, but then that makes me think too, is there on the roadmap to do other languages, or is it already available and I just don't know about it?
It's not yet available. It's sometime in the longer term horizon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
It's a frequently asked question, for sure.
So I'm curious too, just in terms of AI Sense and Otter, as the head of product, is there something that you said you kind of come full circle? It's more of the startup mentality or the layout. How do you manage things? Kind of turning away from the business and more towards you. What do you find to be like? Do you have a routine? What do you do in terms of personal productivity?
That's a very great question. I wish I was as disciplined. So I'm going to sound very chaotic. Well, I would say that I just keep up with my emails, keep up with my social media. My daily routine is checking all the various channels whether it is potential customers of Otter or existing users. I find that that's a very rich source of information to really drive our collective understanding of the product market fit.
Mm-hmm.
Have we built a product that really meet an unmet need? How have we been doing so far? With the existing product, it's a version 1 product. It's certainly there's going to be things that work really, really well, in which case we want validation of that. For the most part, there will be either things that do not work well, whether it's tiny bugs or usability issues, or future enhancements where we want to continue to collect those data points and try to connect the dots and understand where Otter can potentially go strategically, both from a product strategy and from a company strategy standpoint.
Oh, that's really interesting. I think that I'm glad you brought this up, and it's not that you have to have a disciplined routine, but I think that this is an interesting one because I do some of the same things just in a different way. But I think there's that. Every company, every business, consultant, you have to have this more like holistic understanding of what's going on with your business, your product, your service.
Yeah.
And you can't do that by just always kind of following the linear path. Like you need to absorb information and be able to turn that into something quantitative on the output.
I couldn't agree more. It needs to be a balance between both quantitative measures that most people are going to just spew out and say, okay, the DAUs, the MAUs, the active users, the churn users, conversion rate. Anybody can mouth off those metrics, and it is important. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, you also really need to understand the why, and oftentimes the why comes from the qualitative side of things, actual customer feedback, actual support tickets that come in, support emails that come in. You really get into understanding not only how the app is being used, mm-hmm. but also how does it work within the existing workflow of amongst all the other tools that's out there. Because nobody's going to just adopt your product and switch out another product.
Yeah.
People are creature of habit. You have an existing habit, you have an existing workflow in your organization, in your teams, or even for yourself, that it's very hard to change someone's habit. So having that deeper understanding of what are their unmet needs based on their existing tools that they have, or the existing workflows that they have, and how do we insert perfectly to enhance their current workflow, I think that's super critical.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I remember seeing a statistic, and this, now that I look back at it, I think it should be higher, but it's something like, if you want to supplant a product or service that's already there and is performing, at least okay, that you have to be at least 10% better. And I think that might be more like 20, or, I'm just thinking about my own uses. Like, if somebody told me to change a tool out my workflow, I'd be like, you've really got to do something special for me in order to get me to just say, okay, fine, I'm going to switch, because there's a lot of pain involved with that. So.
And we try very hard to exceed the expectation in the form of for transcription applications. Accuracy is one measure. We are definitely at the top of the market in terms of being the most accurate transcription service or transcription application in the market. Very competitive against all of the leading vendors out there. We compete on price. We own the entire technology stack, so we do not have any dependency on third-party speech-to-text APIs. So that's how we can keep our costs low, and we can offer a good value to our end users.
Wow. All right. I did not know that. That's impressive. So this one's kind of a bigger one, but it's definitely one I wanted to ask because I was personally curious, and I hope that everyone listening will enjoy this too. But what's the goal of Otter? Like, what's the and not an end goal? I realize that probably changes over time. But did it start out with here's our goal?
So I'll relay our CEO's vision. Our CEO is Sam Liang. He describes it as borrowing from Google's mission statement, saying that organizing the world's information. We're going to be a little bit more focused on than that. We'll organize the world's voice conversations, because every day amongst people we have we have conversations, we talk. But how much of that information is actually retained? And what are the existing tools that we use or to remember things? Okay, there's always pen and paper, you take notes. But as you start taking notes, are you really paying attention and digesting and really engaging and maintaining eye contact? No, right? So being able to, whether literally use pen and paper to take notes or use your laptop or whatever alternatives, note-taking apps, is still not good enough because it is taking attention away from the actual conversation. So being able to augment the human memory so that it retains, it records everything. And whether you want to keep the recording or not, Otter helps you transcribe it so that you have the baseline of what actually happened. And turn all of that into searchable notes.
Yep.
So why was Gmail so revolutionary? Well, before Gmail, there was email, but was it searchable? Maybe not as good. So Google was great at search, so they completely take email to the next level by not having to worry about folders and subfolders and organizing emails, right? Don't worry about it. If you're someone who don't, if you're someone who's not that organized and don't want to waste time to file emails away into folders, then don't worry about it. Just search. So we want to be able to do the same thing with voice conversations. So the goal, how do you organize the world's voice conversations? Well, we have to start somewhere. We have to capture. So having a reliable recording application, that's a starting point. But we don't have to always be the endpoint to record everything. We're happy to work with any other recording endpoints. The whole point is that there needs to be a desire and a discipline to record everything, or everything of importance that you want to be able to be searchable later on. So you capture the information, then the next step is accurately transcribing it, turning it into text. Because if you're not doing it accurately, what's the point? You're searching through garbage. Like, doesn't make sense. So having good recording, having all the ways of capturing the audio and be able to turn them into accurate transcript, that's the next step. And then the next few steps would be, okay, so how do you apply more intelligence to it? How do you identify who said what? So speaker identification to add on to your notes is very important so that it reads like a script. Or when you search it, you can say, oh, when did Simon say this? When did Sam said that? Right? You want to be able to searchable based on people. Automatic summarization, summary keywords, word cloud, identifying what are the key points, what are the action items, what are the numbers, stats of importance. How often do you go through a long conversation? There was some important number that was mentioned in there and you forgot, or you didn't
get it down quite right.
Get it quite right, and Otter can automatically pick it up.
Just while you were talking, I was writing some notes down about things I wanted to discuss afterwards, but I also had like 3 new ideas for using it. So I was about to bring it up, and I was like, you know what? No, I've got to stick to it for the podcast. So to switch gears a little bit, if we got up and we walked around the office around here, like what would, I guess 2 things. Can you kind of describe to people what kind of, I guess, work is going on around here, and then what would people be using for productivity around here? Is it Trello or Evernote or other tools like that, or is it pen and paper? What kind of stuff is going on here?
I think it's a broad range of tools. I'm very blessed to work in an environment with a lot of very super intelligent, smart team players at the company. And we all stay productive in our own ways. We celebrate individuality. We don't want to all say, you all have to work in certain tools. We try to drink our own champagne, so to speak. We try to make sure that we always use Otter voice notes for all of our meetings. So the moment that it really becomes a habit, the moment that we sit down in a conference room, start recording, because every bit of information that we discuss is very important. That's why we come to work. That's why we have meetings. So adding more value to your meeting is super critical. So starting with remembering to record every meeting, it's a good habit to have, because the moment that you step out of the meeting, you're going to realize, oh, we just discussed that and we've forgotten about that. Thank goodness I can rewind back and scroll back and see what we discussed in Otter.
Makes sense. So then personally, I guess, and people are always interested, and I like to ask this too, but do you have anything, what's like your go-to things for just keeping track of ideas, or what do you use throughout the day?
Yeah, so I like Trello. You mentioned Trello. Love Airtable. It's one of the newer tools that I adopted in the recent years. Just the usual. We use Jira for capturing requirements, the usual Google Docs, the whole Google suite, Google Spreadsheets, because it helps collaboration. Slack for team collaboration. That's what we use for team communication. The search part is a little bit tricky. I would say it's not optimized for search, but I'm sure that they will improve.
Yeah. Any chance of, or maybe it has been, or is there an integration with Slack and Otter?
Stay tuned.
Okay. I look forward to that. Oh man. So in terms of you've had a good history in technology and in the area. Is there anything you've seen kind of coming up and working for several different companies that kind of in the technology sector at least, is there something that you see a lot of people either needing help or in terms of productivity, is there one thing that you're like, man, I wish either people would have taught me this, or I constantly see that, a lot of people need help in this one area? Is there anything like that? Feel free to say no. I'm just...
I don't have a very strong insights in that. I would venture to say that I think the more that we can templatize or have best practices for certain things, so that the people who are really good at very knowledgeable of a certain area, and they can sort of just build those things into templates so that people can just follow. What would be a good example? So when Airtable is more than just a Google Sheets where you can create from scratch, but then they already have templates to say, oh, if you want to do a project management, there's an Airtable for that, right? I think that's fantastic. Yeah. You're not starting from scratch. Or, any sort of, when Sketch as a design, you have Sketch libraries to certain things widgets that are already built for you, and you can start from there. Or there's startups that try to innovate with drawings that are templatized or predictive based on AI. So based on what you want to sketch a dog and then an arrow and then a flow chart with the owner and dog walking. And if you're not an artist and you're not able to sketch it real quick, but if you can just sort of type or speak it and say, I want to draw this diagram, and you can instantly crank that out. I think that's very powerful. So we need to inject a little bit of AI in everything, so that it doesn't replace human being, it augments and makes human beings more productive. Definitely. I think that's really a key point. There's always going to be fear about AI replacing human beings, and I couldn't stress enough that yes, eventually there might be a fear for that, but in the interim, there are so many use cases where AI is really augmenting human brain power to help you to be more productive, to help you do your job better, to save you time.
Yeah, and I like the idea you have, you mentioned the drawing and doing that. And I'm one of those people that's kind of like stick figures, and it doesn't turn out right, but sometimes I want to sketch something, I can see it in my head, but I can't make it, and it's just going to augment what I'm able to do. And I look forward to a lot of this stuff coming to fruition. I'm not a part of it, but I look forward to seeing it. All right, so but I do have one last question for you, but before I get to that, is there anything else as far as AI Sense or Otter that you want people to know about?
Well, I want people to download it. It's a free application. It comes with 600 minutes per month for free. a lot of our users are telling us it's the most generous free trial in the market in terms of a transcription application or note-taking app. So 600 minutes, that's 10 hours per month. And when you use up that 10 hours, then the next month we give you another 600 minutes. So how cool is that, right?
That's very nice, and I make it.
And that's really just wanting to get everybody into a habit of recording and taking notes using a powerful tool like Otter. And once you depend on it, you're bound to go over 600 minutes. Then at that point, we charge a low price of $10 or $9.99 per month for 6,000 minutes. That's like 100 hours. That's a lot. Yeah. Again, we're really disrupting the transcription industry. Out there in the market, typically what you pay for is $1 a minute for human transcription, and somewhere around the ballpark of anywhere between 2 cents to 10 cents per minute for automatic transcription. We're way below that if you do the math. Yeah. So 6,000 minutes for $10 a month. That's a bargain. So we just want it to be a no-brainer. All you have to do is just download the app. It's available for iOS, Android, and also available as a web application. So just go to Otter.ai, OTTER.ai, and sign up for a free account. And have fun.
Cool.
Play with it.
I highly recommend everyone listening to check it out. There's a use case when I write this up and check the description, or if you're reading this on the website, you can check it out. But I've got a few of my favorite use cases, and a lot of them are based around content production, but there's many others, and obviously we've talked about a few of them here. So, all right, time for the final question, and I didn't prep Simon for this, so hopefully it turns out that he likes to read. If not, any media is a good answer. But what book would you recommend for anyone to read? It can be about productivity, it could be your favorite book of the month, but any one or two books.
It's not about productivity. Yeah. It's just don't sweat the small stuff.
All right.
I think just how I like to carry my life and how I like to engage with people who don't sweat the small stuff.
It's a good one. I will have to check it out. I don't think I've actually read it, but I like it because I know the follow-on to that is, and don't worry about it because it's all small stuff. So, awesome. Well, thank you very much, Simon. I appreciate you taking the time today, and thanks for sharing all this with everybody.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
And thanks to you for listening to this podcast episode today. It can be really beneficial to hear about how others approach productivity, organization, and optimizing their business and life. And if you're interested in taking your productivity and efficiency up a few notches, head to www.productivity.academy/start. There, you'll find my Productivity Academy guidebook, which I recommend for all listeners who want to improve their lives and know that there are better ways to getting where they want to go. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. This is going to be too funny if this turned off.
At least I have this.
I'm very glad that you turned that on. I think it turned off. Or I did something wrong. Wow.